Hello, hello, hello. Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting France with Turbo Booster Jet Engine.
Nexa.
205 for the Lucknow Super Giants after 205 minutes of the first innings at Lucknow, but they'd be pleased with that finish. It was a slightly bizarre couple of overs. Harshal Patel didn't seem to get it right. Nitish Reddy had to bowl the last over after being introduced as a bowler for the first time. But it's a story of Marsh and Makram at the top, Pant coming in ahead of Puran, Puran staying till the end, and we see where this game stands. With LSG, remember, still very much in the race for the playoffs, even though they have a lot to do. This is Nexa Presents ESPN Riggin for Timeout. Tom Moody and Abhinav Mukund. Yash here as well. 205. Advantage Lucknow, Tom?
Yes, I think so. I think it's a decent total. It looks good surface though, but in saying that, when Sunrisers took pace off the ball, it seemed to just hold in that wicket a little bit. So I just wonder whether their bowling unit, that is the Lucknow bowling unit, sort of took that from that first innings and make sure they sort of put that into place in their bowling efforts.
Well, they're 108 without loss in 10. So maybe it's a big score coming up. So is 205 a score that even Sunrisers would take, or do you agree with Top that it's advantage LSG?
It's a little bit of an advantage. I think how they pulled it back, I think they gave about 10-15 extra in the end with the last couple of overs. I thought they pulled it back nicely with those overs of Cummins, and Ishan Malinga was brilliant.
Yes.
They were in a spot of bother there until that Harshal over came along, and the final over eventually by Nitish Kumar Reddy, which was expensive as well. So 45 in the last 4 overs, you'd still take it, 4 wickets, but 205 if you're put into bat at Ekana Stadium, it's a good score.
Break down the story, Yash.
Yeah, the skew is where you can tell the story, because 118 for 1 in 11. The next 8 overs, Sunrisers actually conceded only 67. And that's an 8-over period where Nicholas Puran had just come into the crease. I'm sure that's an innings we'll come to in a bit. It's taken 20 of the last over to eventually go ahead of 200. But I wonder if there's something that their bowlers will take, as Tom mentions, from that 8-over spell.
Okay, let's talk about Puran coming in at 4 firstly, and Pant walking out ahead of him.
Yeah, look, a little bit confused, but then again, Nicholas Puran, it's not like he was boasting the form that he had at the beginning of the tournament. If he was boasting that form, you'd be really puzzled with that question. Maybe they just thought, well, let's try to get our captain into form, and the best way to do that is just give him as many balls as possible.
In the 11th over, after a opening stand of 115 and a left-arm spinner bowling, they would have all been relieved in the Sunrisers camp that Pant walked out with due respect. But do you agree with the move?
But that's the thing, if they're trying to maximize the form, and that's the ideal entry point for someone like Rishabh Pant, right? Like probably get a couple of 4s, and you're thinking, okay, you've got a few balls. But to sacrifice someone of Puran's caliber, it's again, you're still wondering what you're trying to do with your team in the 11th hour of the season. That says a lot about LSG.
Curious innings from Puran as well.
Yeah, 45 of 26. That 1-6 came right at the end. We were trying to look everywhere for any Puran innings without a 6. It almost seems unthinkable. You'd have to go back 26 innings in his entire T20 career, the kind of form he's been over the last year or two, for any innings where he's batted 20 balls and not hit a 6. Today his 6 eventually came of the 22nd. And
that was in the last over.
Yes, and Cummins and Malinga kept him down to run a ball, which is very unusual. But you have to wonder if he comes in when he's facing a left-arm spinner, given how he takes them down.
From ball 1.
Could it be a different story?
Yeah, but you also got to consider his form. He's not as confident as he was. He's been in red-hot form for 2 years, but he's had a bit of a sticky 3 weeks, hasn't he? He's been...
Not like an in-form batter is replacing him, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Just like to add one thing about Puran's game, right? I think it's a little cause for concern, because teams are targeting 2 types of balls.
Yes.
One is the full ball on the stumps, which is very, very evident from around the wicket. And the second is that slower ball off cutter into the pitch, which he has no timing to pull. So it's either very full or very short. So there's nothing in between where the lengths that he likes. Teams have planned. That's why he's had a last 3, sticky 3 weeks, because teams have been extremely accurate with those plans, and he just doesn't seem to get away. Even the first ball 4 of Nitish Kumar Reddy was that full ball bowled to plan and went off for 4 down to fine leg.
Yeah.
And in that 5-game slump after his first 6, the first 2 dismissals were exactly the type of ball that Abhinav mentions.
In fairness, I thought that Puran came prepared to counter that and not necessarily to beat a counter out of it. But it seems like he was cautious, getting his legs out of the way. Was that evident to you as well?
Well, his first 10 balls, I think he was about 20. So he got off to a good start, a very good start without a 6. So that was maybe give or take 1 run or 1 ball in that, but that was roughly where he was. And I thought, oh, here we go, he's away here. And it seemed like typical of those top-class players. It was seamless. It's sort of, oh, he's 20, before you know it. But I think you've got to give credit to particularly Cummins and Malinga, the way they bowled and pegged him back and used the conditions to their advantage.
I wonder if we can get into a slightly more detailed chat looking at the two key batters at completely opposite ends of their game. But Puran, like we've established, has had a slight slump in form. And here we see a batter trying to find a way to counter it and come back. And here you also have Rishabh Pant woefully out of form and unable to find an answer. If there is something that can be studied
I'm
in
sorry,
response.
I don't think we can compare Puran and Pant at this stage in a T20 game.
Yeah.
Because I think Puran somewhere, he's in the conversation for the top 3 batters in the world.
Sure.
And a bad or a rather 6 out of 10 innings, 6 on 10 innings from Nicholas Puran is 45 of 26 striking at 170.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah, so
I'm trying to get into that the concept of a batter out of form having a method which may not be
not sure
what he started the tournament with.
Tom can probably answer this better, but I always believed that teams that do well have that sort of continuity. And they understand, even though 3, 4, 5 are quite fluid, there is a sense in it. Like Mumbai Indians keep their 3, 4, 5, 6 fluid, right?
Sure.
And it's more or less to do with the matchups. I'm sure Tom can elaborate on it. But today it just felt purely that Rishabh would walk out ahead of Puran no matter what the situation
what
was.
happened, right. Tom?
Yeah, look, it is puzzling Pant's form because you look at his record. I just checked on his record. His record in IPL is striking at 146 and an average over 32. That's his IPL record. Last 2 seasons, his strike rate's been over 150. So there's no real pattern to why he's suddenly fallen into this hole. Maybe it is that role clarity, not really knowing where he fits into that team, and that goes back to the conversation which we've had around the auction and around the various selections they've had. That hasn't sort of put him in a position that really is he's best suited to be doing.
I have a large question to ask around LSG, which is, it's one thing for these conversations and this change of batting position to happen to a team that's out of contention, whose season is over. This is a team mathematically still alive. What does it tell us about their ambitions, that you're willing to move Puran, who is, as we established, one of the world's best?
Well, they're trying to. They clearly haven't been in form over the last few weeks, have they? They've started. They won a few games early, but then they've sort of been very inconsistent with their batting form. So therefore, they're trying to find that winning formula instead of, I suppose, sticking to what was their set plan right at the beginning. This is how we see our best lineup. This is how it's. This is the batting order.
Also, result of Miller's absence and someone not being able to finish an innings that will give Puran that job. The entry point was consciously delayed.
That's the thing.
If there is some thinking, however good or bad, but that could be the thinking.
Yeah, that's the thing with continuity. That's where
that's
I
your point.
feel. I think you just shuffle players around without a bit of role clarity. You're going down an endless loop of, okay, this guy is doing that, this guy is also doing that. So that's a problem in a dressing room.
The guys that like the continuity are the boys at the top. Marsh and Markram, 65, 61. Excellent.
Of course, I think they've been a revelation for me because nobody wanted Aiden Markram in the auction, if you remember. It was the last pick. It was almost where LSG didn't have any money for backup overseas and they went for Markram. That's how it turned out. It wasn't a plan that, oh, we go into the auction, buy Markram and Marsh. They went for a lot of other opening batters. These were the last resort plans to go for Mitchell Marsh and Aiden Markram, and it's worked out wonders for them.
Break down the story of their success, Tom.
Yeah, my only criticism with both of Marsh and Markram is one of them needed to go through and be batting at the back end, and I think they would have got to 220 if that was the case. We're only talking about that in last night's game. Both of them at a strike rate of in the 160s. Is that enough? Particularly Marsh, who really got out of the blocks quickly, and he seemed to have sort of dropped off his strike rate. So ideally, you'd want one of them to kick on or continue to really start dominating the boundaries.
Okay. I think we'll quickly have a word on the bowlers that did well today. And Ishan Malinga, perhaps that's a tick for next season? Sunrisers Hyderabad?
Bowled really well. Just he adapted to the conditions, used his off-pace deliveries, took key wickets. So, yes, I'm sure he's done himself no favours, or plenty of favours, I should say.
Yeah, he's played 5 games and already he's among Sunrisers' best bowlers for this season, which perhaps also tells the story of how it's been elsewhere. 8 wickets, only Cummins and Harshal have more. He is presently the only Sunrisers bowler going at less than 9s among any of their frontline bowlers. Okay. And he's also got a strike rate which is only matched by Harshal Patel.
Nitish Reddy bowling for the first time.
Yeah, it's good to see him back. Unfortunately, the way the game panned out, he had to bowl the final over. Yep. Puran was on strike. Cummins went hard, 16th, 17th over, used up all his resources in the hope that Puran would get out. You could understand that. 17th, 18th over, bowl himself, bowl Harshal, bowl Malinga, and then probably hope that he'd get away with bowling to Shardul.
His old buddy Samad helped him out over there. He ended up getting only 1 ball or 2 balls of Puran.
But if Sunrisers lose this, they'll look at that 5th bowler, and between Zishan and Reddy, they went for 50.
Yeah.
So they'll look at that and think, we haven't quite got that right.
It does look like they're already a team in next season mode. Harsh Dubey trying, seeing what he... In fact, how did Harsh Dubey bowl for you, for a player who's had such a good first-class record, but big IPL debut for him? It's expensive, but did he bowl better than his figures suggest?
I think so. I think there's a lot to like with Harsh Dubey. Boy can bat a bit as well, so can wait for that. So I don't mind it.
And some chances missed of his bowling. Tough catch first ball he bowled and then a stumping first ball of his second over as well.
Yes. Ishan Kishan, who I thought might open the batting today. However, the impact sub through Ishan Ansari is Atharva Taide. A couple of Vidar boys that we might see in action today, but Taide to open with Abhishek.
I think so. That's confirmation. So it's definitely Atharva Taide opening.
Slightly different tempo to Travis Head.
Yeah, there's a few in that category. I'm looking forward to seeing this young guy because he impressed me that, the limited opportunities he had with Punjab. Correct. I just thought, wow, there's something there with this guy. He looked well organised. He's certainly got a game, so he will complement sort of Abhishek the way he goes about it.
But if memory serves me right, from 2023, remember one of the shows with you, where he made 66, which is his highest score in the league.
Is that the one
for Punjab at Mohali against Lucknow Super Giants.
Lucknow. Okay, I thought you could play a banger of an innings once at MI as well. But yeah, very in the Shikhar Dhawan mold.
Likes to cut the ball. Very strong square of the wicket player. So
right, so it's a standard left-hander.
That's true.
Shardul Thakur is the impact sub in. That's the best use of their resources. Tom, you said perhaps there's a cue to take from that first innings, pace off into the wicket.
Absolutely. Those off cutters into the surface seem to really hold and be effective. So I'd be very surprised if the bowling unit for LSG haven't discussed that and talk. Maybe not in the power play as much as the middle overs will be the key.
All right, let's get predictions on that note. Forecaster, what are you telling us? 73% Lucknow. Sunrise is just under 27. That tells you what you need to know about 200 plus at the Ekana. Abhi, prediction?
I'd be very, very upset if I were an SRH owner or management if we lose this game. You've got the batting firepower. Bowling is not the greatest. You've got a bowling unit that's out of form. You should back yourself to get 205 with the kind of, even without Travis Head, you've got Ishan Kishan, Heinrich Klaasen, Nitish Reddy, and of course, Abhishek Sharma. That being said, I feel they're just going to fall short a little bit.
Oh my, set it up so nicely. Didn't even throw in Aniket.
He's pulled the carpet.
Right at the end. Okay, Tom Moody's seen a ball and you're going for LSG to defend
going for LSG.
Tom.
LSG.
Yash.
LSG.
I'll go Sunrise.
You should.
Variety. Variety, that's what we need. I was variety in the pre-match prediction as well, right? With my 150. But anyway.
The way he started, I thought saying LSG would be the variety, but then
No, the 150 actually was the number of minutes I said the first innings will go on for. You didn't hear me properly. Got cut too soon. Tom, thank you. Abhi, Yash.
Thank you.
Let's unpack this game after it's done and see if Lucknow Super Giants are still standing, even if it is on just about a leg in the race to the playoffs. Pick up the chat on Nexa Presents, ESPN Cricket for Timeout.
Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting France with Turbo Booster Jet Engine.
Nexa.